It can be hard to picture what a house flipping business really looks like. Do you need a ton of cash to get started? Could you even do it as a side hustle? And how do people actually make a profit doing this? Well, in this video, I'm going to give you the big picture of the house flipping business, what it is, how you get started, even if you don't have much money, how to make a profit, and the common things that destroy house flipping deals that I've learned the hard way over 14 years of investing in real estate and hundreds of houses flipped. Now, my goal here is to show you how all the different tactics that you've heard about out there that probably make you feel overwhelmed, how they fit into the big picture. And so let's get started with what is house flipping really? So what you need to know is that from 1967 to like 2024, the average appreciation on a house was 4.27% per year. That means that if you bought a house today for $300,000 and you bought it using a 30-year mortgage, when that mortgage finally got paid off in 30 years, it would be worth over $900,000. That's market appreciation. It's basically like if you work out. If you go work out every day, you're going to continue to get stronger and stronger and bigger. That's how the market works. It keeps making your house worth more and more money. However, some people like to take steroids, so they get really strong really fast. And that is forced appreciation. Instead of waiting 5, 10, 20 years for my house to become worth more by 4.27% per year, well, I want to step it up a notch. I want to put some steroids in that thing. All right. And that is how house flippers do it. All right, so once again, that's called forced appreciation. Market appreciation happens slowly over time. Forced appreciation means that I take steroids today. How do people usually do that? It's through improving the property through construction, through doing a renovation or a rehab. These are all the same words. All right. There are other ways to force appreciation into a property. Like, for instance, there's white collar ways that I like to call it, which is like rezoning a property. Maybe you take an easement off the property, but that's not like what the normal flipper does, what you see on TV, and really what people do in real life. They buy a house, let's say for $150,000, then they do a $50,000 renovation on that house. So now they have $200,000 in the house totally, and then they go sell it for $250,000. They make the difference. That's what a house flipper does. Now, going back to the market appreciation example, the house is worth $250,000 after they get done doing the renovation, the forcing of appreciation, and then it would continue to appreciate at 4.27%. So some house flippers choose not to sell it. Instead, they refinance it at that new value of $250,000, and they hold it and let market appreciation take hold. Those are the basics, but the question is, how do you get started even if you have no money? And most people, the first thing they're going to think is, I need to go to the bank. And in fact, in flipping houses, the worst place to go is the bank. That's the worst money that you can get. Let me explain. Basically, banks are super conservative. So if you're buying a house that you're going to flip, they're going to make you put 20% down. And then you're also going to have to bring money for a renovation. So let's just take that example from before where it was $150,000 to buy the house. I'd have to put 20% down, which is $30,000. And then I'd have to bring the other $50,000 cash to do the renovation. Now, there are some commercial loans that will tie those two things up, but still having to bring 20%, that's a lot for even people who have a lot of cash in the bank. All right. So that's where people use hard money loans. And I know when you hear that, you're thinking like, I made him an offer he couldn't refuse. But that's not what it is. Hard money lenders, they're made for real estate investors, for house flippers. They are accustomed to lending on houses that are not livable today with a rehab portion and then selling it or refinancing it. In fact, a lot of hard money lenders are like retired or reformed flippers. And so instead of giving you money based upon what it costs you up front, They actually give you money based upon what it will be worth when it's done. So instead of going back to that example, the $150,000 acquisition plus the $50,000 renovation, that's $200,000. Bank will give you a loan based upon that $200,000 of cost, whereas a hard money lender will look and they'll say, oh, that house is going to be worth $250,000 when it's all said and done. I will give you a loan based upon the ARV, the after repair value. All right, that's where flippers get their money most of the time. There are some other strategies. Now, a thing that you got to know is with a hard money lender, if you're brand new to the game, they're probably not going to give you 100% financing. That is really reserved for people that they really know have a track record they probably worked with in the past. And you really have to find the right kinds here. And I hate to burst everybody's bubble because I know there's lots of videos out there about how you do everything with $0 down. The reality is to do it with $0 takes some super creative workarounds that require a lot of time, knowledge, effort from you. Or instead of all those things, you put more money in. All right. So I'm sorry that there's not a super easy route. All right. But I know that you guys probably want to know about the other routes. All right, so how do people actually put no money of their own into a deal? Private money. All right, this is like borrowing money from your rich uncle. And that is like what people do. I've never really been a big fan of private money because I always kind of felt like it was, when you were in college, like some of your buddies, they decided they were going to do like the insurance sales or like the financial thing where they had them sell like whole life insurance. And the first thing they do is make them get out their phone and like, get the list of all your friends and family. And that's who you're going to call first. Like, screw you, man. Like, I don't want to answer your phone call. And it's like, you get a call from that guy and you're like, I know what you're selling. I'm not going to answer that phone. That's what I feel like when raising private money. I know that that's going to like rub people the wrong way. Maybe it's for you. I don't know. Maybe your rich uncle wants to help you invest. But I always felt like until I had a track record, I was going to go with the hard money lender who was used to working with novices like me, and I'd have to bring a little bit of my own skin in the game, i.e. have to bring some cash. But whatever. You want to go ask your uncle for money? Do it. Or there's accredited investors. These are people who actually invest for a living. That's a little bit of an in-between area because they're going to know you're a newbie. They're not going to be giving you money based upon the fact that they know you well. All right. And then kind of like a cousin to the private money is doing partnerships. You could take somebody who has a lot of cash and you could say, hey, I want to go do all the work and finding a deal, managing the renovation, selling the house. I'm going to do all the work. I get paid nothing, but you bring the cash. All right. That would be a partnership that you might set up. Another way is creative financing. So that's subject to or seller financing. Basically, what subject to is it's not quite assuming somebody's loan. So let's say somebody had bought a house for $200,000. They have a loan for $180,000 on it, whatever. Assuming a loan would be that instead of the $180,000 loan being in the seller's name, the bank that gave him that loan lets you assume it, put that loan in your name, and then, the seller agrees to sell you the house at that price, whatever, or maybe you bring the extra $20,000 as a difference. We're talking about how you do this with no money in the game. They'd probably sell it to you as a discount. But assuming a loan doesn't really work that well because most banks don't want to do it. So that's where people do subject to instead. And basically, I know this sounds weird, but the loan would stay in the seller's name, but the house would be transferred to you. So there's got to be some trust there. There's some reasons why they would do that. That's not for this video. And then the other thing would be, let's say that seller owns the house outright. They own that $200,000 house. You say, hey, I'd really love to buy that house. I'll give you your full value of $200,000, but I don't want to come any money out of pocket. So can I pay you in payments instead? And basically that seller becomes the bank. They get their mailbox money from you and you don't have to bring any cash out of pocket. And there's also like in between seller financing and subject to. Like they might have had $100,000 mortgage on the house, which you take sub to, and then you get seller financing for the additional $100,000. You see where there's a little bit of a combo there. Okay, other way is to use your own cash. That's the other way to buy a house. Like some people just buy a house with cash, do the fixing up, then they go sell it or they refinance it and hold it as a rental, and then they get their cash back and then they go do it again. That's how some people do it. Easy enough. And this is kind of like a bonus one. I said that banks are like the worst for flipping, which is true, unless you're buying a house that is livable already. And best is if you're going to go live in it, because then you get primary mortgage down payments, which there's FHA, which is 3.5% down. And then there is, just like a conventional mortgage, that's going to be 5% down. So a lot better than the 20% down, but the house is going to have to be livable. Banks don't give you money if the house is not livable today. So it's got to meet some standard. Also, you're probably going to have to come out of pocket to do the renovation unless, sorry, this gets confusing. There's for FHA, there's a 203K loan, which is actually a construction portion of that loan as well. Don't want to get too much in the weeds here. I just want you to understand how flipping businesses get started, how you get the money to do it. All right, now moving on to the next section, which is inside a house flipping business plan. How do you write a business plan for a house flipping business? And most people have like this tech startup idea in their head where it's like, all right, I got to write this 30-page business plan and I have to have a pitch deck, and I'm imagining myself in front of a room full of investors. It's definitely what I imagined. And none of that crap matters. How about that? The reality is the business plan is the freaking deal. Any experienced lender, somebody who's going to give you money to buy a house, is they don't care about that crap. They don't care about you giving them neighborhood economics and such with a pitch deck. What they care about is how much do you buy it for? How much do you have to spend to improve the value? And what will that improved value be? Going back to that equation before. Acquisition price plus rehab equals after repair value. That's it. That's all that matters. Now, if I'm lending to you, I'm thinking, okay, first, acquisition price. Did you get it under contract? Great. Right. It's not like I might buy this house. This guy said he'd sell me the house for $100,000. People say crap all the time. Do you have a contract that says they're going to sell it to you on this date at that price? Great. Right. And that's weird, right? That you are going to get a deal before you go to a lender. You might have made connections with the lender, but you're not really doing anything until you have a deal to put in front of them. Okay. They're asking, do you have a contract to buy it? What's the rehab and project costs going to be? Because there are other costs like utilities, there's insurance, there's closing costs that you have to figure. I'm trying to keep this simple. Okay. So project costs, and a lender's going to be right in asking, well, hey, you've flipped 0 houses or only a couple in your lifetime. You really have no rehab experience. So are you sure it's going to be $50,000 for that renovation? That's what I'd be thinking. Okay, so you're probably going to need to get some bids from contractors to do this. And that's going to help you too, because you really don't know until you know, unless you've watched a whole bunch of my content and know exactly how to write a scope of work with a budget that you'll be able to deliver. But that's not for this video. It equals ARV, after repair value, or maybe you've heard BPO, broker's price opinion. That's really fancy for saying you had a real estate agent go pull some comps and tell you what they think it's going to be worth. And, pretty much anybody that's lending to you also has their ways of figuring this stuff out. They might go order an appraisal. Okay, but that's it, right? The business plan is simply that, showing them the contract to purchase it, showing them the renovation with proof that it's going to come out to be that much, and then what the after repair value is going to be. That's your business plan. And, you might think that there's like some cool spreadsheets and stuff that you use to deliver this, but usually it's like in an email, hey, it's going to cost this much, or maybe the lender has some sort of spreadsheet that they want to fill you out. But guys, it's not like rocket science here. And most lenders, they make their money by lending to people. So they want the deal to work. They'll work with you to make the deal work. Now, banks, they are going to be like checking your credit, your debt to income ratio and all that crap. Hard money lenders don't care. They care about the strength of the deal, and that's it. Except for they do care about your credit score a little bit. But it's not like to buy a house through a bank, you have to have like a really good credit score. To buy houses with hard money lenders, it's usually like mid to high 600s is what they want to see. If you're working with a corporate type of hard money lender, I know a lot of hard money lenders that don't pull credit. In fact, I'd say most of the ones that I work with don't pull credit. Some do, some don't. They're going to want to see that you have a little bit of money. They're more interested in the deal and your experience, but some of you aren't going to have that to start. So how do house flipping businesses make a profit? Okay, well, not much to talk about there really, because we just talked about the equation over and over and over again, right? Acquisition price plus project cost equals ARV. Same way the lender is going to give you money. That's how you're going to underwrite a deal to make sure that it works. All right, there's like the 70% flipper rule that you want to follow, which says you take the ARV, the after repair value, and you want to take 70% of that. So we're taking the, for easier math, let's say the after repair value of the house is $300,000. That's what we think conservatively that we can sell it for. So 70% of $300,000 is the 210. So $210,000 is 70% of the ARV minus the rehab. So if the rehab I think is going to be $50,000, sorry, when I say rehab, I mean project costs. Remember, there's insurance and other things. So if I think it's going to be $50,000, I subtract that from the 210. So now I would want to buy that house for $160. It seems like a big spread, but the reason it's there is because there are a lot of costs. There's contingency that you got to figure out. 70% rule. Follow it. Don't buy bad deals. Bad deals will sink the ship. Okay, how do you make a profit? Continuing on with that, the equation. All right, it's really easy to say the equation, like getting that kind of deal is hard. And a lot of you would sit here and say, oh gosh, well, those deals don't exist. They do. I get them all the time. Experienced investors get them all the time because they know the truth. They don't grow on trees. They don't grow on the market, on Zillow or the MLS. You got to go out and find them. All right. I told myself for this video I wasn't going to get into tactics, but yeah, that's the offense. Getting a great deal is the offense. The defense is, you said it was going to be a $50,000 budget. Playing defense to actually deliver a $50,000 budget. That's project management. Easier said than done, guys. It is a simple thing, but it requires skills that you will gain over time. Once again, my channel is kind of all about that and making sure that you don't put yourself in situations that really do blow up deals. All right. And then, the final piece there is making sure that you comp a property correctly from the start. Like if you were basing everything upon that being able to sell for $300,000, well, it better be able to sell for $300,000. Some of the biggest mistakes that I've made in my career is getting a little bit too ambitious about what I thought I could sell it for. No, if houses in that neighborhood are selling for $300,000, you ain't going to sell it for $330,000. It's not happening. The market is what the market is. I don't care how nice you make it. I don't care how many HGTV shows you've watched. If the market's selling that neighborhood for $300,000 for that size of a house, it is selling for $300,000. I don't care if you put gold-plated backsplash in that thing. Next is, how do successful flippers automate or streamline their business? Now, I am all about the one-man house flipping business, the solo house flipping business, or guerrilla house flipping, as I call it sometimes. And what this means is I used to have a big payroll. I used to have people all over in this office that were doing things for the house flipping and real estate investing business. I don't anymore. I don't want that headache. That payroll just is crushing. I always felt like, gosh, I gotta, do this, that, or the other thing that doesn't actually make sense for my business. It just makes sense to be able to keep up with this humongous growing payroll. Guys, I don't know about you, but I am about making sure that my head is cleared when I get out of my truck and walk into my house so I can go focus on being a family man. That's my priority. And having that kind of weight in the office didn't allow that for me. That's why I'm all about the solo house flipping business. So to do that, you have to streamline and you have to automate. I remember that as I was growing, this was years ago now, I remember being at like 6 projects going on. And I know that sounds like a lot right now, but this was after I was investing for quite a while. 6 projects going on, renovations. And that was the number. That was like, okay, now I'm going to have to hire a project manager because there's no way that I can handle this anymore. Okay, well, now I have nobody on staff. And I have 22 projects live right now. Now, some of them are smaller, like, it's some rental turnover or whatever, some crap that I have to deal with. Not all of them are full-scale big projects, but some are. The point here is that if you get systems and automations into place, it makes things a lot easier. You can go really far with your bandwidth if you know what you're doing. Okay. And when I say automations, don't get all squirreled up here. It's not like I'm not going to show you how to use Zapier or N8N or whatever. Okay, so I mean automations in a different way. Let me get to that. Okay, I hate hearing the whole build a team narrative. Like, you got to build a great team. I don't like that because I think it leads people to like blind trust. So let's take this with a grain of salt. I don't want to get too deep into here, but you don't blind trust anybody. You do need vendors because we don't have any payroll, but you are the leader. You need to know what you want from them. All right, so there's a few vendor categories that you have to really streamline your business. Deal finders, bird dogs, people who find you deals. Like I said, not going to find great ones on the market, on the MLS, on Zillow, but you need to have a good buy-side real estate agent. You got to know wholesalers out there that are finding off-market deals, and you want to take it up a notch. You learn how to market and get deals off-market, right? Direct to seller. You send out postcards, make phone calls. I got a whole system for that. That's not for this video. Got to have deal finders, got to have contractors. That's it. Deal finders, contractors. All right. I am always on the hunt for contractors. Literally driving to my office this morning, took pictures of 3 different vans that fit the profile of the contractors that I like to hire. Always building that pipeline, always recruiting. Okay. The automation is simple. It's those 2 vendors, build relationship capital with them, make them like working with you, and then everything gets easier. Because, the contractor that I work with on Project X, well, I've done 30 projects with them before this. And so they know exactly what I want. I barely have to do anything. I just have to say, hey, give me a bid on this thing. This is the scope that I want to carry out. They give me a bid. I know it's a good one. I check it, but I know it's a good one. I let him go. I wait for him to call me because he needs this check. And then I go check the work and then it's done. And there you go. That's what you want to build towards. Oh man, I realize that I'm kind of getting into the weeds here. All right. But build relationship capital. That's how you automate. Over time, they learn your expectations. It's a great thing. That's really how you automate. Now, I do have different systems that I use on the computer, different planning methods, which help me automate. I use like the GTD method, David Allen, getting things done, if you know about that, to keep track of everything. Basically, it's all about, your brain is not meant to be a keeper of all the information. You walk through your job site and you're like, oh gosh, we got to paint that thing. Oh, that thing's going to need framed out. And then the electrician called me and, oh yeah, I'm working to find that deal at 123 Main Street. All right. What I found is the best entrepreneurs, the best small business entrepreneurs, they just have like a great record keeping brain and they're able to recall those things. And that's really like how they're able to expand. Okay, but I'm real dumb. So I decided that's not really a path that I'm going to be able to keep. I need to use like whatever bandwidth I have in this small brain of mine, I need to be able to use it to make decisions because there's lots of decisions to make. Therefore, I capture everything into a digital system so I can look at it later and figure out what I need to do. So that paint, goes right in my phone. Oh yeah, I got to call what's his name. Oh, I got to chase down that deal at 123 Main Street. And then, I have like a calendar set to, at this time, I go through all the things in my digital inbox and I figure out how I'm going to deal with it. Now, my little peanut brain has capacity to go deal with the decisions that I need to make when I need to make them instead of thinking about all this stuff. So that's what I mean by streamlining and automating. Common house flipping mistakes. All right. This is the section that I really intended to get a little bit more in depth with my views on things. But I'm just going to tell you about the 5 biggest mistakes that you can make that I've made and how I get through them. Not buying good deals. That's it. You guys know the equation. If you get a bad deal, none of it works. Guys, I used to beat my head against the wall trying to find ways to get cheaper renovations done. And, that's why I ended up with a construction company. I thought that, that's the key to being a great real estate investor is I just drive those construction costs down and then I'll be a millionaire in no time. Not true. Defense. Rehabs are defense. The offense is getting great deals. You got a bad deal on the front end, you're never going to make money off of it. Get a great deal on the front end, changes everything. This is number 2. Skipping financial contingencies. No matter how good you are at project management, you are not going to deliver your budget at $50,000. Remember the example from earlier. $50,000, I think it's going to cost. It's going to cost at least $60,000. If I thought it was going to be 3 months, it's going to be at least 6 months. It just happens. Guys, I'm experienced. I have managed hundreds of projects. It's always more than you think it's going to be, and it always takes longer than you think it's going to. And it kind of has to be that way because I guess you could deliver it in perfection if that's all you did all day, every day. But that's not all you do every day. You're out looking for deals. You're out, being a family person. You are out living your life. That's why you do this, is for financial freedom. So you have the freedom to go do the things you want. You don't want to be like running up to your job site all day, every day. So plan. Put some money aside for it to cost a little bit more. You think it's going to cost $50, put aside $60, maybe $70. Over renovating. This is what I call the HGTV dilemma. Stories for days on being an idiot here, but we talked about it earlier. If everything in that neighborhood is selling for $300, I don't care if you put gold-plated toilets in there. It's still selling for $300. So don't over renovate. Do the baseline. Believing you can make up profit on the sales price. Yeah, that's right. Oh, I guess it's the same thing. $300,000, it ain't selling for $330,000. The market is what the market is. And I see a lot of people get to the end of their project and they're like, gosh, I did so much work here and it looks so nice. Let's shoot for $330,000. No, this is what's going to happen. House is going to sit on the market and then people are going to start looking at it and they're going to think, wait, why is this house not moving? Seems fine. There must be issues with it if nobody's given an offer yet. And then you put the worst filter you could possibly put on your house, the must be a crappy house filter, and you're going to have a lot of trouble selling that. So would have sold for $300,000 if you would have just listed it right in the first place. But instead you went and listed it at $330,000. Now it won't even sell at $300,000 because everybody thinks something's wrong with it. So you end up selling it for $280,000. Sucks for you. All right. Well, hopefully you understand the big picture of the real estate investing a little bit more and house flipping and the differences between them. And I tried to not get into the weeds on this stuff. And I know I ended up getting into the weeds on some of the stuff, but guys, my whole channel is about getting into the weeds on different tactics here, different strategies that I actually use as a solo house flipper, as a guerrilla house flipper. Guerrilla meaning I'm not taking big swings like I used to. I'm not taking big risks where I can bet the farm and lose the farm, my family, right? I am only doing small, controlled wins, building my wealth one step at a time. Same thing I want for you guys. Check out one of these other videos, and thanks for hanging out.